Thank you, thank you, thank you. Please call me Indro. Everybody calls me Indro. I hear the full name Indranil only when I'm in trouble with my wife, so please stay away from that. So I was listening to the last discussion that Jeff was leading, and he made an interesting comment about HR's role in the future and the role of being a futurist. And I'm going to do a good old-fashioned survey, not a Slido survey. I'm going to ask you to raise your hand to say if you feel that in your organization today, HR, maybe you yourself, or maybe somebody in the HR function, is leading the organization into the future of work. Please raise your hand. Okay, about 6 to 8%. So we need to change that. Because I believe, there was some comments made about being at the table today, right? Being at the table to take those decisions and push it forward. And there's an old colleague of mine who used to say this, and I completely believe this, that if you're not at the table, you're probably on the menu. Okay? And I sincerely believe that no matter whether you are taking the lead on this or not, it is going to happen. Your organization is going to go through it anyways, right? Nobody in your organization is going to wait for HR to stand up and take the lead. So if you're not taking the lead, IT will. If IT is not taking the lead, innovation will. If innovation is not taking the lead, a couple of your business unit guys will say, okay, forget it, we're going ahead anyways. And all of a sudden, you're on the menu. And that is not a nice place to be. So I want to start with that alarming message, but I also want to give you a message of extreme optimism and hope. Now, when we do leadership programs with our clients, we ask clients this question. So use one word to describe how you're feeling right now. And guess what the number one word always is? Any guesses? Overwhelmed. It's probably number two. The first word is tired. Right? You hear that a lot? Tired, exhausted, overwhelmed. Right? So if you think about what is the role that HR should be playing in leading your organization into the future of work, it is to take people who are feeling tired and exhausted and overwhelmed to feel excited and who feel like they're thriving in that environment. So it's a big ask, it's a tall order, but let me tell you that in the work that we've done with clients, it doesn't take a long time to go from feeling overwhelmed and tired to feeling super excited and super thriving in that environment. It's just a mindset shift. And when some of my colleagues come and tell me, oh, but mindset shift takes time, that is nonsense. That is absolute nonsense. It doesn't. Mindset shift takes seconds. And there is, I don't have to go too far back to give you stories of this. We had that exact same situation yesterday. The client will go unnamed. Somebody from that client is in the room today. But we saw a mindset shift happen within seconds to go from feeling depressed and feeling anxious and feeling frustrated and overwhelmed to feeling excited, as if the possibilities are infinite. So think about those two things. If you're not at the table, you're on the menu. And mindset shift to thrive, to go from surviving to thriving, is the role that, from an HR perspective, you can play in the future. If that doesn't excite you, I don't know what will. So let's look at first a video in terms of how we think about the future of work. Can we play the video?
Everyone's talking about the future of work, and a lot of what they're saying is disturbing. Robots are taking over all manual labor. AI will replace all kinds of white-collar jobs, and humans will be contingent labor, scavenging for the limited work remaining. Yeah, pretty alarming. At Deloitte, we don't see things that way. The future of work is this. That's right, people. People empowered to do what we do best. Thinking creatively, using our emotional intelligence, making value judgments, communicating, teaching, sharing wisdom. Our human capital teams are plugged into worldwide developments and trends, and we see 5 clear realities we can all act upon right now. Reality 1. Everything is on the table. 57% of jobs globally are highly vulnerable to automation. Work, workers, workplaces, they're all going to change dramatically within the next 7 years. Why now? Because a number of factors have brought us to a tipping point. The world of work will change as radically as the world of personal communication began changing 10 years ago. Do you remember questions like these? So change is coming, and to make the most of it, we need to open our minds. Reality 2. Technology learns faster than we can. Amazon uses robots to select, stack, package, and ship items with almost no human intervention. We already know technology learns far faster than we can, but it's also true that it has changed our personal lives more than the way we work. That's good news, because as technology changes the world of work, we'll already be familiar with many of its advances. Reality 3. The new workforce will be highly diverse. 70% of business leaders believe they need a new mix of talent and skills in the future. We've been writing about the open talent economy for years. Well, today, it's here. Traditional employees will increasingly be joined by contractors, freelancers, and crowdsourced talent, as well as robots and AI applications. Office parties will never be the same again. Reality 4. Work to learn, not learn to work. The average half-life of a learned business competency has dropped from 30 years in 1984 to 5 years in 2014, and is still dropping. As routine work is automated, we'll be able to focus more on truly human skills. We'll have careers built around learning instead of careers built around jobs. Reality 5. Public policy needs to catch up. By 2020, more than 75% of the S&P 500 will be companies that we have not heard of yet. All this change will happen while the government still struggles to come to grips with it. But we can't wait for them. It will be up to our leaders in business and society to help drive public policy and bring everyone along. With these 5 new realities in mind, Deloitte is working with organizations around the world to help them recalibrate talent, technology, and workplaces. So while everything will change, we have the framework that can help you understand how to make it work best for you. Above all, we know what the future of work is really all about. Us. So let's get to work.
Okay, so there's a lot to unpack. There is a lot to unpack. But what I would start by doing is asking you another question, which is how many of you feel that you're in an environment today compared to, let's say, 2 years back or 3 years back, where you have more constraints around you? Raise your hand. Around your businesses, around your people. About 30%. How many of you feel that the constraints have become almost negligible? 0%, which is interesting. So here's the thing. What I'm here to say to you will sound extremely weird. But the reality is that in the future of work, your constraints are negligible. And the reason for that is because of the 7 disruptions that I'm going to talk about. And I'm going to try and make the case in a very short period of time that all the constraints that you have, that you think you have, are in your head. They're not in the actual ecosystem. They're in your head. And I say this from personal experience. As I've been involved in developing the Deloitte COE for the future of work, I've come to realize that all the constraints as far as resources are concerned, the technologies are concerned, the capabilities are concerned, they're all in my head, in my balance sheet, in my organization, not in reality. So here are the 7 disruptions that I want to talk about. The first one is technology is everywhere. Jeff talked about this. You realize it yourselves. We are simply not using that technology. Right? We are simply not using that technology within our organizations. And every time we try to use that technology, we see barriers within our organization that tell us, oh, you can't do that. And then the answer is, sure you can. You just need to solve the problem differently. So that is number 1 around how are we using technology. Number 2 is massive growth in AI, cognitive computing, and robotics. So let me give you a simple data point. So how many of you have some sort of a assessment center or development center where you're assessing your leaders or your talent? Raise your hand. Almost everyone. How much time do you think it takes to get a good insight on somebody? Give me a number. How much time do you think it takes to figure out a stranger? To the extent that you want to figure out fit for a role. Okay. I'm not talking about dating and getting married. Calm down. That's in a different room. Few hours. How many hours? 7, 8. Multiple interviews, multiple psychometrics. So the typical notion is 7 or 8 hours. Yeah. So we've managed to bring it down to an hour now with the same level of accuracy, actually higher level of accuracy. And we are experimenting with technologies that bring it down to, 7 minutes? So again, the constraints that you think you have are in your head. The technologies and the cognitive and the AI aspects of technology that you need to get your head around can take your thinking in terms of what is possible to completely different levels. Jobs and tasks are vulnerable to automation. Everywhere I go, this is the topic. Will my son or daughter ever have a job? We are replacing jobs. Oh my God, this technology will come and there will not be any jobs left. Productivity will change completely. You know when email was introduced? That was the same conversation. That, oh my God, now we're going to have email and all of these jobs are going to go away. And we're going to have free time. I still remember somebody on TV, serious futurist, come and say, now that we have email, we're going to free up 20% of our time. We're going to get 1 day of the week back for leisure activities. Yeah, right. How is that working for everyone? Enjoying that extra Friday?
That's why everybody's here.
That's why everybody's here. So every time we introduce new technologies and new automation, yes, there is dislocation. So your jobs will not be the same. But that doesn't mean that this is going to replace jobs. So there is data that says that every time Amazon has put in significantly next generation technology and AI into its processes, it has ended up hiring more people. So the question you need to ask yourself is not how do I stop people from getting displaced through automation, it's about how do I get people to learn new skills fast enough. Tsunami of data. So this is true. 9 times more in the last 2 years. In the last 2 years, we've added more data, tangible data, than we have done in known history. How much of that data are you using for decision making today? Right? The research says less than 0.05%. But we're staring at spreadsheets all day long. We're staring at traffic lights all day long. Unlock that. And you have to understand machine learning to be able to unlock that. And it's not that hard. Machines learn faster than humans do. And once you understand how to train a machine, how to onboard a machine, how to look at data lakes and data wrangling activities, you will get freed up. All of a sudden, all of the manual work that you're doing right now in analyzing how many recruitment offer letters have gone out, they're in PDF format, they're not in your system, et cetera, all of that just falls away. Just falls away. But you need to get your head around how to deal with that. Diversity, demographic, and generational change. So we're dealing with several companies now that have crossed the tipping point of millennials being more than 50% of the workforce. And again, they come to us and say, oh my God, what are we going to do now? And we say to them, that is a fantastic place to be. Because millennials, especially digital natives, especially AI natives, do not understand the concept of constraints. So you can do much, much more with 70, 80% millennials in the workforce than you would with generational Xers in the workforce. It's just that you're not thinking like that. You're worrying about all the things that you read about millennials being fickle, them moving on from job to job, et cetera, et cetera. And every time we talk about employee experience came out as number one in this room, right? So when you think about employee experience, how are you thinking about it? Give me one example of what employee experience would mean to you. Somebody who voted for employee experience is number one. What is important? Just shout out something.
Self-service.
Self-service.
It's easy.
Make it easy, convenient, etc.
Appreciated.
Right?
Make them feel important.
Make them feel important. I went through this transition about 7 months ago when I used to think about, every time I thought about employee experience, I was thinking about employee experience for people who actually came and worked for us full time. Employee life cycle. So an important part of employee experience would be, how do I think about my career? What am I going to do long term in this organization? And I came to the conclusion that most of the people who are working on future work, for me, don't have any aspiration to work long term in this organization. They're happy to work for us for 2 months, have a lot of fun, and then move on. So ask yourself, what is the experience that you can create for them? And stop obsessing about this employee life cycle. Stop it. Nobody's interested in your employee life cycle anymore. Right? Nobody's interested in that beautiful picture that you made of employee life cycle that lasts 7, 8, 10, 15 years. Especially the current generation that's coming into the workforce is not interested. So as you think about this, it will unlock possibilities for you. You will suddenly realize that your resource pool has just gone from the people who are inside your office right now to the entire ecosystem outside. And boom, all those constraints that are in your head are gone. Within 6 months, we have been able to generate more than 3,000 FTEs of work on data science in Singapore under the future of work. We have less than 6 full-time employees doing it. What are the constraints in your head? What are the constraints around resources? Change in the nature of careers. This is exactly what I'm talking about. That employee life cycle slide is dead. Please take it off your PowerPoint decks. Explosion in contingent work. How many of you are thinking about contingent workforce as your first idea to staff a new project? Raise your hand. Flex first. 1. Next time you have a project, ask yourself, why do I need full-time employees for this? Can we go flex first? And again, I'll talk about the story yesterday. When we started thinking about this, there was one particular project that would have taken normal scheme of things 3 years to launch. The idea was to launch in 30 days, leveraging a contingent workforce. What are the constraints in your head? So that's the story I wanted to share with you. And I'm going to leave you with I don't know whether this is an age-appropriate example or not. So it's from the Beatles, so I'm kind of dating myself a little bit, right? So anybody seen the Beatles movie Help? Huh? Yes, thank you. Finally. Big fan. So in the movie Help, there is this scene where there are 4 Beatles, by the way. So they come out of their cars and they walk into 4 doors side by side of 4 different houses. And they open those doors and they go in, and the next shot is they're in the same apartment. So the reason why I take that example is the point that I'm going to make here, which is there are different doors that you can walk in to the future of work. But the apartment is the same. And the 3 different doors are either from the concept of open. So you can think about making your organization boundaryless, completely open, completely transparent. So that's one way to enter the future of work, to navigate to the future of work. The other is you can think about agile. You can focus on the door is around speed, agility, rapid prototyping, squads, tribes, completely different way of getting work done. Again, you'll be in the same apartment, but you'll enter through the agile door. And finally, you can think about augmentation, or what we call cobots, not robots, people and machines working together. So that's another door to enter. And you may think about what are the technologies and how do I make people and robots and technology work together better. You'll be in the same apartment, which is the future of work. So you may navigate by theme, or you may navigate by the different areas, like new ways of working, capabilities, workplace, future workforce, work and organization. So I wanted to leave you with this thought in terms of giving you something that helps think about how would you frame it with your senior leadership teams, with all your stakeholders in terms of how we get to the future of work.
Okay.
Bush, back to you.
Yeah, Indro, thank you for that. There are about 3 or 4 questions that have come out, so I'll just shout out one in the interest of time. So how do you operationalize these? I mean, isn't it too costly to get started? How do you make the business case for this?
Right. Okay. So that's another constraint that's in your mind. The cost of setting up a data lake is now less than $100,000. And that's a data lake of more than 1 million data fields. The costs of leveraging some of these technologies have come to a point where you actually don't need business cases. You can just move forward. So we're going profession by profession. Let's take the profession of actuaries, right? What we're looking at is the possibility of about 80% automation in an actuary's role. The business case for that writes itself. Wealth managers, front end of banks. Wealth managers or relationship managers, about 75% can be automated. The cost of that, so the actual business case for that was a 3-month recovery. 3 months, not 3 years. So actually, it is getting easier and easier. And again, taking all your excuses away. Not just yours, but your business leaders and your stakeholders. Just be savvy about it, smart about it, source the right people, the right talent. And most of those talent are not working for you right now. And they'd be more than happy to come and solve those problems for you. Leverage startups, leverage the entire ecosystem. They have the solutions. You just haven't asked them.
Great. Thank you, Indro. Once again, if you can go to your personal activation canvas and note down maybe a couple of things that kind of stand out. What's the gentle nudge, not so gentle nudge that Indro's kind of given you to kind of get started? That'd be great.